You're unbelievably more wise in your nature than you ever will be in your conscious thoughts. Because behind your conscious thoughts lies your nervous system. And if you say, well, my nervous system is unreliable, it is just a bunch of strange, weird biological chances that have got mixed up somehow, then this very opinion that you're expressing, you see, is a function of that nervous system. So you're saying that you are a total hoax. You can't trust yourself at all. And the meaning of this is that one should, above all, trust human nature in the full recognition that it's both good and bad, that it's both loving and selfish. A man of true virtue is therefore a human-hearted man.
Assalamualaikum everyone, and welcome back to IIUM Brilliance. Thank you so much for joining us again. So IIUM Brilliance is a place where we explore secrets to unlock potentials. Our very goal of this show is basically diving into the mindsets of brilliant people. Let me begin again. So our very goal of this show is basically to dive into the mindsets, insights, and intelligence and ingredients of successes of IIUM very own community and high achievers. But most importantly, we are very honored to actually invite over to our show people of IIUM community who have significantly contributed to the development of our society through their works. So from today, we have two educators and teachers from the NRTC centers, Ustaz Yusuf Kara and Ustaz Ismail for today. So before we begin, is that a small introduction about our guests. So Ustaz Yusuf Kara is the manager of NRTC, which stands for Nursi Project for Research Training and Consultancy, and also one of the proofreaders for the translations of Risal Anur Corpus, written by Bediüzzaman Said Nursi himself into English, and it is conducted by Hayat Foundation of Turkey. Yes. And then we have Ustaz Ismail, which has amazing extensive backgrounds in education, where he has multiple bachelor degrees and masters, and now is pursuing his doctorate in IIUM. So before we get into the questions, a small introduction towards NRTC and what their goal is. So basically, NRTC is a project for NRTC stands for Nursi Project for Research Training and Consultancy, which is a collaboration between IIUM and Hayat Foundation of Turkey. And their goal is to revive of Islamic thought in the light of Quran and Sunnah while engaging in contemporary issues and challenges in itself. So moving on to our questions and our interview for today is that Bediüzzaman Said Nursi is a great Muslim revitalist. His contributions and legacy deserve to be appreciated widely and to be continued. Could you, Ustaz Yusuf, briefly share with the young people out there who this great personality is, and how did he impacted you personally, perhaps in relation to the Book of Light in itself?
Okay, thank you very much, sister. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I greet all of our brothers and sisters out there with respect, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us, inshallah, a fruitful program today. Thank you very much for welcoming me, and I hope, inshallah, the program can be a fruitful one. Yes, there is a Muslim scholar in Turkey who lived in the late 19th century and in the first half until the 1960s in Turkey. His name is Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. And he's a great scholar who mastered not only in Islamic sciences but also in positive and social sciences. So his understanding and his knowledge is actually covering both divine sciences and divine knowledge, as well as human knowledge. So in this regard, and he being a contemporary scholar, so we greatly appreciate him in Turkey. And he is not just a writer of books and spreading it for people to benefit, but actually he is a living person who lived through the difficulties of his time back in Turkey in the times of the late Ottoman times, when Ottoman was supposed to be conquered by the European powers, and then it gained independence, but the new government was not actually a very Islamic one. It was a secular government. So, like many scholars in the world so far, he also suffered a lot of troubles. And he himself exemplified and personified the teachings of Quran and Hadith in his personality. So he not only wrote books and articles and published it to the people, but lived by the Quran and Hadith in his life. And this way he became a living teacher for the people in those hard times when Turkey was being de-Islamized. And through his writings, that is called Rasail al-Nur or Risalah al-Nur, and he wrote chapter by chapter and he sent it to people. It was not even, so what actually impresses me also, it was not even published by printing houses. It was published by people. People has become the printers for a book. Because of the conditions of the time, it was banned to make such Islamic publications, and on top of that he was using Ottoman Turkish language, which means the today's language, the today's Turkish language, which is written with the Quranic letters like Jawi in Malaysia. So he was still using that. He was insisting to use that one. It is not banned in Malaysia, right? There is only just an alternative, as both alphabets can be used alternatively. But at that time it was banned. The letters of the Arabic language was banned to be used. So he was making an Islamic publication, and he was doing it in a script that was banned. So this is why actually it was very difficult to maintain. But still, alhamdulillah, he continued his struggle as a Muslim scholar, and he became an example for so many people. And it was not very much welcomed by the secular government of that time. Just a few people actually in the government. The whole Turkey is Muslim, but somehow a few people in the government were just seducing the people, and then they were just trying to de-Islamize Turkey. So in the meantime, he was teaching to people, and his teachings were being recorded and were being written and printed and copied by the people by hand, and being sent to people secretly, because it was an Islamic publication. It was banned, so they were doing it secretly so that people benefit from it and so that people preserve their iman and akhlaq. And then by the time they reached until in just 20 years of time, they found that already 500,000 people managed to read his books and were preserving their faith. So because of that, we really appreciate his efforts in Turkey and his understanding that is very much integrating the mind and heart, the Islamic subjects, Islamic perspective with the social and human subjects. So inshallah, we'll elaborate a little bit more on that.
All right, thank you for the sharing of your thoughts. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back to IIUM Brilliance. Okay, so to continue our show today is that would one of you mind walking us through the philosophy or goals behind the establishment of the Badiou Zaman Said Nursi project, the ones that you are managing?
Okay, of course, our center was established 2017, early 2017, and in Turkey, as I said in the first part, we know Badiou Zaman Said Nursi, and we extensively in Turkey people read and write on Badiou Zaman Said Nursi's Risaleh an-Nur. So, of course, this is widely known not just in Turkey but also across the world. Of course, relatively small compared to Turkey. So, this is why we are here in Malaysia, in IIUM, to talk about the contribution of Badiou Zaman Said Nursi into the Islamic thought. And as Muslims, as humanity, we are going through a crisis. And actually we are saying that Badiou Zaman Said Nursi, he says that Quran is a pharmacy. So when you become sick, what do? You go to a doctor. And doctor treats you and he gives you a few medicines, right? A prescription. So he refers to a pharmacy and then he picks the necessary remedies for you. So in every century, humanity is going through certain sicknesses and problems. And Quran is a pharmacy for all times, for all segments of society. And the scholars of each time are like the doctors of those times. So they are treating the people and the condition of their society, and then they are referring to Quran, and they are making medicaments and compilations and and presenting to the people. So this is what Risaleh an-Nur is. So since he is a contemporary scholar and he is someone who not only is aware about Islamic sciences, but also aware of social and natural sciences, even aware of philosophy and literature, Eastern, Western literature. So he very much knows the problems of the time. And then, for example, he says at once, he says there are two fearful or two dreadful conditions in this time. So this is like his theoretical background of the Rasail an-Nur. So he says there are two conditions, so two important problems. One is that non-belief is coming from science and philosophy. Previously, non-belief among Muslim societies, in the Muslim societies, would arise from ignorance. If someone does not know, have some questions in Islam, then he would go into doubt, and then he would maybe lose his faith or weaken his faith was weakened. And then that would happen also quite small, like 1 in 100. But now non-belief is coming from science and philosophy, from education itself. We are not demonizing science, we are not demonizing philosophy. But when that science has an atheist philosophy in itself, an atheist subjectivity, then that is the problem. But objective science actually is the study of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because science today, if we can just roughly divide it into like two, one is like social sciences, human activities, and one is like the natural sciences that is studying the universe naturally, and also medical sciences that is studying biological sciences. They are just studying actually the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is not actually something different from the study of Quran, because Quran is the Kalamullah, is the word of Allah. And we are studying the Kalamullah, the word of Allah, the speech of Allah. And then creation is what Allah did, what He created, right? And the nature is what Allah created. It's like His activities, like if we have to use some human words, it's like what He did, right? So we come to know about Allah in two ways, actually. Anyone can be learned about, can be known about in two ways. One is about like the theoretical information about Him, or verbal, oral information about that person. And secondly, you observe yourself, him or her, in her behaviors. So when you get some information about that person in order to know him or her, and secondly, you observe the behaviors. You don't just depend on the theoretical information. You need practical observation as well, right? So actually in this regard, if Quran is like the more of a theoretical information, a speech of Allah, that Allah is informing himself and introducing himself as Rahim. Allah says, I am Rahim, I am Qadir, I am all powerful, all merciful, most merciful, and this and that. And then Allah is in the Quran itself is referring us to look at the universe. Allah says, فَانظُرْ إِلَىٰ آثَارِ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِلَىٰ آخِرِ الْآيَةِ. Look at the works of mercy of Allah. Allah wants us to look at the universe, to reflect on Him, to understand the Quran, right? So this is why actually science itself, and also there are like Allah is saying like the ayat of Quran, and also Allah is saying in a number of ayat that ayat at-takwiniya, I mean the creational ayat. So Allah is saying وَمِنْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. For example, the creation of the heavens and the earth is from the signs of Allah. Yes. So we are supposed to both look at the Quran that has ayat, and the universe that has ayat, signs of the existence of Allah. So in this regard, actually science, human science, natural science, and other human sciences, they're basically the study of Allah, to learn about Allah. So in this regard, Sayyid Nursi having this approach is actually presenting a very good remedy for us today. And this is the first problem that he said. And secondly, he says, people, their mind are overwhelmed by their emotions and feelings and opinions, personal opinions. And this is the second dreadful condition that he is pointing out. The first one was about Iman, that is under threat. And the second one is about, in terms of the actions, we don't use our mind. Like we as Muslims, we believe that there is Akhirah, there is Jannah, there is Jahannam. I have to pray, I have to fast. But then in the actions, I'm not very much fulfilling it. So I'm not acting the way I believe. This is quite strange, right? So then he is pointing this out as a great problem. And when we look at the, for example, the theories and concepts and ideologies of the Western world and of the whole world today, we see that because currently the ideologies are basically coming from the Europe for the last few centuries, since they have the hegemony over the world. Like they had first Christians, they were Christians in the beginning, and then they were believing in Allah, in a God, in their ideas and ideologies, in their faith. And then they rejected that with Renaissance and Reform and Enlightenment period. And then finally in modernism, they just rejected the existence of God. So they were just depending on a God as a source of knowledge. So they know what is right, what is wrong. They got the information, according to them, right, from their Bible, actually, which was distorted by it. They were still, depending on it. So they were believing in a God, and they were living that way. And later on, they rejected the existence of God. They said, we depend on our minds. Mind show us what is right, what is wrong. So this is modernism. But then by 1960s, and especially by 1980s, postmodernism has come. And with postmodernism, it says we cannot find reality. We cannot find truth. We cannot reach it. So it actually is based on skepticism. We cannot find it. So then there is no reality. I mean, we don't have to look for it. So they don't even take their minds as a criteria. So then there are realities in the number of people. Everyone has its own understanding, has its own feelings. So what is right according to me is what I feel right. What I like to do is okay for me, right? So we have come from a belief in Allah, that is the source of knowledge. And then to the next stage, depending on our reason as the source of knowledge. And the third stage, our reason also cannot guide us, and now everyone has in its own way is a source of knowledge. So this is a great actually destruction. So in the personal level, actually rather than the mind, actually as I said, just feelings, emotions, and personal opinions are governing. So in this regard, Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, from those times, he passed away in 1960, but he was such a, visionary person that he foresaw these times after like 60 years of his demise, and this is getting stronger and stronger. So now people very much depend on their feelings and emotions and personal opinions. They don't want to even take their father's opinions as truth, their teacher's opinion as truth, anyone's opinion as truth. They say, according to me. They have a fact, they have a reality that is their own understanding. So this is very actually challenging and very dangerous. So Bediüzzaman, according to this, he is in order to strengthen the mind, because emotions, there is a problem with the emotions, and these postmodern people, they know that. That's why actually they are playing on it. Because when you address the people individually, they can very much easily be diluted by their emotions, and you can just play with them. Like they do everything, and then they just direct them in a certain way for capitalist and for economical things, and then they just transform them, and they just direct them in a certain way. So on this, just with one word, emotions and feelings, they don't see the future. They just want immediate pleasure. But mind can see the future. Okay? So we should strengthen the mind. Then we should make mind overwhelm the emotions. So especially as a Muslim, when we act, we should strengthen our mind over our emotions. To see, not necessarily the future. To see, because our emotions, they want pleasure. We are living for pleasure, right? And people are going from pleasure to pleasure, like hedonism. And then they don't want discomfort. We don't want any discomfort right now. After 10 days, it's okay. Still, there are 10 days. You don't care about it. But you don't want anything right now. Pleasure, you want it now. You cannot delay it for 10 days, right? So, but then, this is problematic. So, we should see the pleasure in Iman and Ibadah right now. Not necessarily we should say there is Jannah, like the pleasure is in Jannah. No, there is an immediate pleasure in Ibadah, in Iman right now, today, in this world. A concrete, right?
Those are the answers that the youths, the questions that youth are asking today. What is the benefit of doing this? Why do you ask me to do this? Just last week, I was in one forum, and two guys, they left the fold of Islam. Why? They ask certain questions, and there is no answers for them. So today, youth are asking many questions regarding Salat, regarding this and that. So they want answers. So it is when we are able to provide answers to the rational questions or irrational questions that youth are asking today, it is then they will be able to say, Alhamdulillah, I got to the right track. So that is what the Bediüzzaman is trying to focus on. Some questions, critical questions, that are coming to the mind of individuals, either adults or youth. So instead of saying, keep quiet, we should provide answers for those questions. So that basically, that is the area that Bediüzzaman Risala Nur is trying to focus on. Yeah.
Alright. Okay, that's all for now. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Okay, thank you everyone for welcoming back to our show. Ustaz Ismail, could you share with us and the people out there about your experience with NRTC and how you came about it?
Alhamdulillah. As Ustaz just said, there was a program here in IIUM in 2017, which I attended. Alhamdulillah, the program was so fantastic. And most important thing and outstanding take from the program was is trying to tell us about how can we see positive when we are in trial, when there is trial, when we face problem, certainly in this life there will be problem. How are we going to see it as a way, as in positive direction? Okay. Today's people are committing suicide. Why? Because why this problem? Why this problem? So in that program, I was able to get answers to all those critical, rational and irrational questions which you probably want to ask. So after the program, I tried to attend the Salah classes in the NRTC. Alhamdulillah, you get answers to many questions you have been asking yourself internally before. So when I got back to my country, Nigeria, I tried to discuss some of these topics with my friends, my families. They were so excited and happy because it let them look at another direction when you are facing certain problem and some questions you want to ask about Islam. Sometimes when we are so young, when you ask your father or your mother, why this? Why do I have to pray? Why do I have to wear hijab? Why do I have to keep quiet? Because probably maybe they don't have answers for it. But through Risala Nur, you get answers to all those questions. Even I discussed the episode on sickness. It's called Risala to Marido. Why do we face sickness in life? And you see, Badu Saman tried to mention almost more than 17 points on reasons why we are afflicted with sickness in this life. So from there, sometimes you will be happy when you fall sick because actually you get another direction or another dimension of seeing that trial. So through that, I try to read more about Risala and discuss more about. So what I just observe is that your iman will increase, and probably you feel a kind of confidence in religion you are upholding, which is Islam.
Then I agree. Actually, like from my experience of attending the classes, I do have more confidence. Okay, when you talk about the classes, could you share some of the classes offered by NRTC?
Sure. Actually, we have been offering intellectual and spiritual enhancement program. That is, all of our programs are free of charge, and we are making posters and spreading it through the campus and pasting it on the boards and sharing them through WhatsApp. And then in that program we have 2 modules. So each module is taking place for 8 weeks. So a student who registers in our programs will first join this program, Intellectual and Spiritual Enhancement Program. We have 8 topics, so each topic we cover in 1 week, so 1 time in a week, so 7 times, 8 weeks, 8 times. So each time is 1 hour. So we have 50 minutes speech, presentation, and then 10 minutes question and answers. So our topics are very much, as it is mentioned, intellectual and spiritual enhancement program. So we want to balance the mind and heart. So we need both. We cannot just focus on knowledge, intellectuality. We cannot just focus on spirituality, heart. So we need a balance. So someone who completes this first module in 1 semester, next semester can join the second one. So this is a speech-based program, and there is another program that is Risale and Nur study program. So this is a text-based program in which we are following a certain text, certain topics. Under one topic there are certain texts every week, and we are reading together, and we are focusing on the terminologies. We are discussing together. It's very more interactive.
Certificates.
And then we are at the end. We are giving certificates. We are doing certificate ceremony, and also, alhamdulillah, our university is providing star points for these programs. We also have language programs. Until this semester, we taught Turkish language program also, but we have Yunus Emre Institute in Malaysia that will, inshallah, provide Turkish language as an elective course in this university. So we handed over to them. So inshallah, we are hoping that they will start that. So we have also Malay language course and we have Arabic language course. So other than that, like I'm delivering tazkirah in the masjid every Tuesday after Asr. We are doing conferences. In 2017 September we held a conference on Wasatiyya and exemplary society in the thought of Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. We had international participants, and then we are doing seminars and then seminars with students and lecturers. We are also doing consultancy activities with students, like who would want to do interviews sometimes or come to discuss something individually or in groups. And we also have research programs because we are research, training and consultancy. So in the research part, the lecturers of our university, they are discovering the contribution in the Rasail Nur, in the Risaleh Nur of Bediüzzaman, into their fields. So they are basically reading, going through it, and sometimes we do discussions together. So they write articles to explore the contribution of Bediüzzaman Said Nursi into their field. And we are doing publications and so on and so forth. Inshallah. Thank you very much.
Okay. So with all these programs and classes you're offering, what do you hope to bring, like, what is your hopes, like, in the work you are doing in the light of Nursi's legacy? Is that or like advices for the young people out there especially?
Number one, we always need scholars. We need to read a lot. And we need to be very open-minded. Like why we are here focusing on basically on Risaleh and Nur is not, I want to underline this, is not just we only teach Risaleh and Nur, we want to teach Risaleh and Nur only. No, it's because we want to use our limited energy to introduce the Risaleh and Nur in overseas, so that the people there also can be aware of Risaleh and Nur. So this is why we are giving more energy to Risaleh and Nur. But people should be very much open-minded and should read, the mufassirin, the scholars, to get a good understanding of Quran. Of course, we can personally read the Quran and Hadith, but also going through the teachings of the scholars is also very important. This is in our legacy, of course, it is not always. So, what I can advise to our young intellectuals is that it is not just the knowledge; it is acting by that knowledge. Yeah. Knowing so much is not very much appreciated unless you want to act on it, because there is a hadith. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, "Halaka an-nasu illa al-alimuna." Human beings were perished, were destroyed. Illa al-alimun, except those who were knowledgeable, who were alim. So you have to have a knowledge so that you are safe. Halaka al-alimuna illa al-amilun. And then the people who have knowledge, they were also perished, they were also destroyed, except those who were acting by their knowledge. So it is not important to just increase our knowledge on anything, but we should act. We know that the Ashab alayhim salam, radiallahu anhum, they used to go to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they used to learn 10 hadith, they go back, they work on it, they internalize, they apply it in their lives, and then they go back again and learn another 10 more. So we should act on that. And then وَهَلَكَ الْعَامِلُونَ, and even those who acted on their knowledge were perished, were destroyed, إِلَّا الْمُخْلِصُونَ, except those who were sincere in their actions. So sincerity is very important, just as our actions are based on our intentions, right? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Without intention you cannot pray, you have to have an intention. So intention is the spirit of an action. And the spirit of that spirit is ikhlas. The spirit of that intention is sincerity that should be 100% pure for the sake of Allah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of us, inshallah.
Inshallah. Alright, before we completely wrap up our show, is that can you list down 3 books that you would recommend everyone to read?
Okay. Of course, for today's sake, since I'm invited here at the capacity of manager of Bediüzzaman Masjid Nursi project, if my brothers and sisters would like to, maybe others may not suggest, they may not know about Risale an-Nur, so I may specifically suggest them some books from Risale an-Nur. One, if for example you want to improve your faith in Allah, from an observational perspective, I can suggest you to read the 7th ray from the books of rays. 7th ray. Second one, if you have questions on, for example, the brother mentioned sicknesses, why Allah is giving us sicknesses, the calamities and this and that, Allah is mercy, why He is doing that, etc. You can refer to 25th Flash in the book of flashes. So these books are under the Risale an-Nur, is the name of the whole set. So every book has a name. So book Rays, I gave the 7th ray. The book Flashes, I gave them the 25th Flash. And then, secondly, if you, for example, want to improve your sincerity, ikhlas, that is very important, that is the essence of our actions, you can refer to 20th and 21st Flash. 2 flashes.
Okay.
20th and 21st flashes.
Alright, okay.
Okay, thank you very much. And the Risale an-Nur can be accessed online in the internet also.
Okay, that's all for today. I hope that people out there, the watchers, are going to benefit from what we've talked about today. So don't forget to, if you're interested in NRTC, the office can be found in HS level 3. And then don't forget to follow our Instagram page, Twitter page, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.